Everybody please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Township of Old Bridge Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting, August 1st, 2019. Adequate notice, excuse me, adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting by prominently posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the time, the date, the location, and the agenda of this meeting. Also by mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, and finally, by filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk. Ms. Silverman, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Chandelier?
Here.
Mr. Connor?
Here. Here.
Mrs. Stockman? Here. Mr. Stoner?
Here.
Chairman Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Sacks?
Here.
Mr. Gill?
Mr. Gell? Here.
Mr. Watt?
Yeah.
Apologies.
Just as a matter of housekeeping, everybody here, would you please silence your cell phones during the meeting so we don't interrupt? The other issue is we are being televised on cable TV, Channel 15, Old Bridge TV. I don't anticipate going beyond 10 o'clock, but should you be watching at home and it goes beyond 10, the cable does have to be turned off. Having said that, we'll move on to item number 2 on the agenda for the evening. It's a resolution. It's 1719Z, JC Realty LLC. Mr. Sacks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is application 17-19Z, JC Realty LLC for C variance, property located Block 55, Lot 292, at 292 Lincoln Avenue. Application was heard on July 18, 2019. Property located in the R5 zone. The applicant is seeking approval to construct a new single-family residential dwelling of approximately 800 square feet on a 2,000 square foot lot, which will be one story, contain 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and an open kitchen, family room, and dining area. There were 7 C variances for minimum lot area, minimum lot width, minimum front yard setback, minimum rear yard setback, minimum side yard setback, combined minimum side yard setback, and off-street parking. There was really just one witness, Mr. John Vincenti, who indicated that the existing older home will be demolished, a new 800 square foot home will be constructed, a new driveway proposed which will accommodate 1 vehicle. He described the variances which are pre-existing nonconformities for lot area, lot width, front yard setback, side yard setback, combined side yard setback, and rear yard setback. The front yard setback is improved with the proposed driveway, which relocates the new dwelling further into the lot. The RSIS also required 2.3 spaces, according to Mr. Vincenti. There are no existing spaces and 1 being proposed, and he opined that variance relief can be granted under both the C1 and flexible C2 analysis. There were no specific conditions of approval, and as I said, this was heard on July 18th, and you're memorializing it this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Sacks. Board members, you've heard the resolution. Someone want to move it?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Stoner. You did not vote on that? Okay, Mr. O'Connor will take the second in that case. Roll call, please.
Ms. Chandelier?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Dillon?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. Item number 3 on the agenda, completeness waivers. 15-19Z, Metro Storage LLC. Absent the planner, I would read this into the record, but I will defer to Ms. Sawant to give us a quick rundown on this request. Ms. Sawant.
The site is located at 13528 Bolton Boulevard, and, it's at Cindy Road and Route 9. That's the address of the applicant. But it's a vacant property, and they're proposing to do a 3-story Metro storage building. And I think there are I don't have issues with the waiver request, except for the street profile, because right now it's a vacant property, so they would have to add in a new driveway on Route 9. So I would recommend that they provide us with the street profile. But the aquifer recharge, the benchmark NAVD, actually, our checklist requires NGVD, which is an old standard, whereas NAVD is the latest standard. So I am okay with granting all those waivers. And some of them actually don't even apply. The easement or fee simple interest, that doesn't apply. And the mailed street furniture, that doesn't apply. So I'm okay with everything else other than the street profiles.
Thank you. And board members, I'm sure you had a chance to read this. There was 8 of them. And you probably have an attached letter from the attorney, from the firm, Mr. Scala?
Wissaskala.
Stating that he'd be withdrawing requests for the waiver with respect to that item, the street profiles. So in that event, it will be included. So absent that, board members, I would ask if somebody would be in favor of granting the other waivers requested. Anyone? I'll move it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilbo?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. Item number 4 is continuances. We have one. That would be 12-19Z. It's Wawa Inc. It's the EDO 3 zone. It's the one located at 3600 US 9 South. It's existing store. It's an existing store and gas station, and they want to add the sale of diesel fuel. This is for preliminary and finer major site plan. Duncan Prime representing the applicant, and they are asking it to be continued to October 3rd without further notice. However, Mr. Sachs, would you give me an update on that?
Yeah, actually, I did get a call this afternoon from counsel, and he indicated that the reason they'd like to carry this is they're going to submit a request for an interpretation of the zoning ordinance. So, a lot of it will involve him submitting a letter brief and providing whatever testimony he wants to. So we'll see what he submits, and then we'll make a determination
Board
at
members,
that
as you
point.
recall, this came down to a vote, and I think it went 4-3, if I was not.
It did.
It was denied. So we'll see what continues on October 3rd. If you're hearing that matter this evening, it will not be heard. It will be on the agenda, October 3, 2019. We'll move on to the applications for the evening. That's item 5, where we'll start on a C variance application. It's 22-19Z, Les Joseph, 11 Briarwood Drive. This is the R20 zone. It's for its second-floor addition over a garage requiring a C variance. Mr. Joseph, is there going to be any other witnesses testifying this evening other than yourself?
Oh, just,
And you're the property owner, I would assume?
correct.
Okay. You're not represented by counsel, so we try to make it, while it's a formal proceeding, we try to make it a little bit more comfortable for the homeowner, or a little bit more relaxed in the sense that we just want you to tell us what you want to do, why you want to do it, how you're going to accomplish that. If you have any exhibits or pictures, you would give them to Ms. Silverman, she would show the board. We're going to go to our professional, we're going to ask him why you need a C variance and why you're here. We may have some questions for you, you may have some questions for us. After that goes on, I'm going to go to open the public portion. We'll see if there's anyone in favor or opposed to your application. We'll then move on to a point where, if you want, we'll call for a vote, and we'll take a vote on your application. So in your own terms, why don't you just start? Go ahead.
Swear him
I'm going to swear him in. Okay. Mr.
That's
Joseph,
fine,
please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, please state your name, spelling your last name, address for the
My
record.
name is Les Joseph, 11 Briarwood Drive, Manhattan, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Closer to you. Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my family is getting a little bit bigger. We were 3, now we're 5. So there's a house down the street on Tara Drive, I believe, and that had the similar structure. And I noticed about 2 years ago that they built over the garage. So since then, I've been contemplating about doing the same thing to my house. So that's where the idea came from, to accommodate my family.
You have any exhibits that you want to show us,
All the plans,
other than what we have?
no.
Okay. Why don't I ask the professional why you're here, and why you need to see variance? Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. The application is here, as the denial letter indicates, for a rear yard variance. As the board is no doubt aware and has had opportunity to review the survey, this property is a corner property, and the home is oriented such that it's catty-corner to the intersection. So it's not a traditional, we have a side yard that's really a front yard, but it looks like a side yard. This is a situation where really the house kind of faces the apex of the street. And the reason they're here first, or the things that we tend to look at when we're looking at an addition, in addition to the side yard, is how big is it going to make the structure? What is it going to do to the overall square footage? It's important to note this in this instance because the addition is otherwise conforming. It doesn't create an FAR issue. It's not like they're overbuilding the structure. The footprint of the home remains the same. What is created here is that because of the catty-corner configuration, the true rear yard can't be realized. The house juts towards the side yards, or what one would consider to be a traditional side yard, but is in fact a rear yard. If I could draw your attention to the survey for a moment, Porsche Drive, though the address is Briarwood, Porsche Drive is the true front yard. It's the narrower of the streets that touch, or the sides that touch street. So the true side yard is opposite, or the true rear yard, I apologize, is opposite that. And that's depicted in the 38.79-foot setback to the existing home. If the board were to consider this application and the impact that it would have, whether the board approves this addition or doesn't, the 38.79 remains. It's for that reason that this application is, in my opinion, a technical variance. It doesn't really create any meaningful impact that I can see that would affect the neighboring properties or the community in general.
Conditions pre-existing
Yep.
when they built this home.
Yeah, it was pre-existing when they built it. It may even predate some of the zoning that affects the property today.
Okay, anything else you want us to know?
Nothing, Chairman.
Typically, what are you going to do on the second floor? I mean, do you have a
Well,
plan?
right now, my bedroom is adjacent to the bedroom where I'm trying to build. So I want to move my current bedroom to the new ones, right above the garage.
Very good. I'm going to go to the board members. On my left, any questions? None? Going to my right? None, Mr. Sachs?
No, I'm good.
Anything else you want to tell us, sir?
I would appreciate it if I can get an approval on this project.
I kind of figured you were going to say that. Well, let's see if there's any objection, okay? Do you mind if I go to public at this point?
No, not at
Okay.
all.
This is matter 22-19Z, located 11 Briarwood Drive. Is there anyone here in the room this evening who wants to be heard on this matter? No one has raised their hand or come forward. I'll close the public portion. Any final comments other than what you just said?
That's it for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
This obviously isn't going to have any effect on his house, other than he's going to create more space over it, as you said. Well, Mr. Gill, go ahead.
I did want to say one other thing that I jotted down and forgot to mention. The ordinance does contemplate expanding existing nonconformities and has within its mechanism of control, if a deficiency is under a certain amount, in this case it's 7.5 feet, then we wouldn't need a variance. The fact is, because he's a little bit over that, it's 11 feet where the 7.5 foot would rule. That's why he's here this evening. I wanted to mention that just so that the board was aware that the ordinance does contemplate this type of addition.
All right, thank you. Okay, I don't know, that doesn't have any effect on any of the board members, I don't think, and raising any questions, correct? Okay. Well, having said that and having heard that, someone in favor of moving this for approval?
I'll move it.
All right, Ms. Kilduff and then Ms. Chevalier has second for approval. Please take a roll call.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilbert?
Yes.
Mrs. Felton? Yes. Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. And I believe we have one prepared in the anticipation of an approval.
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. This is application 22-19Z, Les Joseph, property located 11 Briarwood Drive, block 3236.22, lot 4. It is a request to permit a second-level addition over garage in violation of rear yard setback proposing 38.77 where 50 is required. The conditions of approval, that construction to be completed within 1 year of the issuance of the building permit. The addition will conform with the existing house, so therefore, obviously, they must match. And finally, that the addition will be for personal use only, not to be utilized for any commercial or business usage. Okay.
You understand that, Mr.
Yes.
Jessup? You've heard the resolution, so one move.
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Conner?
Yes.
Ms. Tilden?
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman
I
Sullivan?
think it's great when people improve their own homes here in the community rather than picking up and leaving. So you had an anticipated build in your family, now you're going to have a second floor to build to help your family out. My vote is yes, and the best of luck to you, sir.
All right, thank you. I want to thank the board.
Thank you, sir, for
Thank
being
you,
here
everyone,
this
for
evening.
their time.
Seating.
Don't forget building, any necessary building permits,
I will.
okay?
All right,
Yes,
thank you.
You'll see Mr. Gill.
Yes.
He needs some permits, right?
Yes, you need some permits. So once you have your resolution, you can refile your application tomorrow, if you'd like.
Okay, that brings us up to the final application of the evening. It's 13-19Z Nassau Development 6 LLC. This is in the EDO 1 zone located at 343 Route 34, indoor recreation use and hatchet throwing. Hopefully not in a courtroom. And this will require a D variance. Eric Berger is representing the applicant.
Thank you. So this is for, as you said, Block 3231, Lot 17, Park Plaza Shopping Center. This is for, I don't know, do you want me to swear me in as well, since I'm also manager?
All
Isn't
right.
anybody oath? Isn't anybody his attorney?
Yeah, I don't need to swear you, Mr.
Okay.
Berger. You can make the presentation. That's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Okay.
We're seeking a use variance. This is a 60,000 square foot shopping center. There's a portion that was occupied by Jersey Homes Realty and by Chopsticks, which has been vacant for many years. And we're very excited at the fact that we found a tenant, which is a axe throwing use. I'm also the landlord for Marketplace 2 Shopping Center. And we have a same use there.
Right.
And has been very successful. And in fact, that the owner of that one knows the one in this one, and I've talked with him, and he has said that he has no objection to this continuing.
Good.
So I'm confident that both will thrive here in Old Bridge. It's a fun use and one that I'm looking forward to having and expanding. I think this is a little bit different, as you'll see. So I'm going to now call a representative from Bad Axe, who's flown all the way in from Indianapolis to be here with us tonight.
All right, sir, please raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name, spelling your last name, and affiliation for the record.
My name is Kai Lee Block, Leeblock.
Okay. And you're with Bad Axe?
And I'm with Bad Axe Throwing, yes.
Thank you.
All right, so on this first drawing, you see the blue area, which is in the middle of the rear building of the shopping center, which is where we're going to have this use. You can go to the next slide. Oop, no, you had the right one. No, I wanted the one that you had before, the drawing. So actually, that is the picture of the shopping center with Jersey Homes and Chopsticks. So you just go to the next one of that. Yes. So can you explain what hatchet throwing is?
Yeah, it's a new sport it's kind of taken the nation by storm, and it's worldwide. So we can see here in this facility, we expect to have 10 lanes. Each lane can house between 1 to 20 customers coming in, along with our coaches that are there to entreat the guests. So people arrive, we obviously make them sign waivers, as not that we've ever had any major incidents or anything like that, but we want to cross our T's, dot our I's, go through what their expectations are for the event, go through safety first and foremost, and then we kind of go to town. We teach them how to throw an axe. It's not difficult. Anybody can do it. I've taught 80-year-old grandmas how to throw. They've done very well. And then from there, we teach them different games. There's lots of different team games that we like to play. One thing that Bad Axe tries to encourage are corporate events. My location in Indianapolis is in a very good spot downtown, and we tend to draw a lot of attention from corporate interests, and a lot of that is team building. So we really try and focus on that, and then we tend to culminate our events with a big tournament to see who truly is the best at axe throwing amongst that group of people.
And I just want to point out, the way this is oriented is towards the center of the space. So you're not going to disturb any of the other tenants because the thud is going to be internal. It's not going to be on the exterior walls, and that was intentional. Do you want to describe how you encourage the people who come to see you to also patronize the other businesses in the shopping center?
Absolutely. One thing that Bad Axe very much tries to also encourage is the World Axe Throwing League. We're a major proponent of it. It's the kind of major axe throwing league in the world right now. We just had a major tournament this last winter up in Chicago that was on ESPN and keeps being re-aired. It's very exciting, and it's what's really supporting the sport. And a part of that is that that's an axe community that we try and encourage other facilities. It's not a sink or swim scenario. We all want to kind of buoy each other up with a new sport and just get the word out there. It's very new, and so we want everyone to be participating in it, whether it's at our facility or otherwise.
Right. I was going a little bit different, which was that I actually have spoken with some of the other tenants in the shopping center. We're very excited about the prospect, including Nikki Snips and the Laundromat, because by this business drawing people in, it's going to help the other businesses in the shopping center. And has that been your experience at other locations?
Absolutely. With the parties that we hold, we often encourage and recommend catering services that have reached out to us so that people can bring in their own food, and we try and do different deals and trades with businesses that surround our facilities in our almost 40-plus locations at this point.
And where are locations located? Where throughout the country are they?
They're throughout the entire U.S. We have 3 locations in California, for instance. We just opened 2 locations up in New York State, in Syracuse and Rochester, Indianapolis, and then the business itself started in Canada. So we have multiple locations throughout the greater Toronto area, as well as in Winnipeg and Surrey.
And what are the typical hours of operation?
Typical hours of operation, we can have events as early as 8 a.m., though very rare. Typically, we have events that go till at latest 11:30 at night. That's when we tend to shut things down. There's no use to go past that. Events last about 2 hours. We do tend to have walk-in times at our busier locations where people walking around can come in, and we'll have coaches ready to teach them, and that's about an hour experience at minimum. But our busiest times are between 5:30 and 11.
And how many employees do you anticipate having at this location?
About 12.
What were the days of the week? You were talking about 7? 7 days?
7 days a week, yep.
Okay.
And you're going to place the garbage in the common dumpster behind the building?
Absolutely.
I have no other questions to the witness if the board has any questions for him.
I'm sure that the alcohol issue is going to come up. Do you allow alcohol to be brought into the property?
We do whatever the city or state wants us to do at that point. So some locations where it's approved, it is, and where others it's not.
Are you planning on having a liquor license for this location?
No.
All right, so there's no liquor license, so you're going to be, New Jersey's a little bit different maybe than where else you have, because if you're not going to serve alcohol, you can't do that. You need a liquor license to serve alcohol. The question of whether or not they can bring in alcohol is something I think we discussed with the other applicant that Mr. Berger had represented.
Right, and they had said they would not bring in alcohol, and we've spoken with Bad Axe, and they've also said they're willing not to bring in alcohol.
No.
Fine, okay, so that would be a condition that you would agree upon?
Absolutely.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Why don't we go to the professionals?
Okay, great.
Mr. One.
During peak hours, how many people do you anticipate in that location, in this location? Like typically per bay, how many people?
At
Do you
maximum
envision-
for 10 lanes, which we're anticipating here, we would probably have between 80 to 75 people somewhere in there on a pretty good day. It could be more, but we would go based on what the occupancy load that we have. Obviously, we wouldn't want to go over that.
And plus the employees.
Yes, that's correct.
So at the max, 100.
If
90
that's
to
what our
100.
occupancy allows, absolutely.
Okay, that's it. I think I'm good for you.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I have one other question. And And again, I'm just basing my experience from the previous application. What was it, Bury the Hatchet?
Yes, good memory.
That's what your wife said to you.
At that facility, and I'm sure it's probably the same with yours, each axe-throwing area, lane, is going to be supervised with a with, I
Yes.
guess, someone who's trained in that sport. Is that correct?
Yeah, the
You have
idea
the
is
same
eyes
type
on.
of-
Oh, yeah, we don't let people do this without supervision, and it's per bay or lane, as you stated.
Okay.
Yes.
So someone's there at all times?
Mhm.
Okay.
What delineates the lanes? Is it cyclone fence? Is it wood, in between?
Yeah, the current iteration that we do, we call them partitions. So we have lane partitions that are comprised of 1x4s along with, obvious structure, and then some mesh netting that we've gone through. It's a very thick gauge that doesn't get cut by the axes. It's been very great because it keeps a nice open feel without being too flimsy or anything. And then now we've even started doing target partitions. So we'll separate, so each lane has 2 targets. We'll separate those by a small 8-foot length partition as well, just to be as safe as possible.
You're going to allow people to bring in their own food as well?
Yes.
You have areas that you can dispose of the food, I'm assuming, correct? Dumpster?
Yes, there's a dumpster behind the shopping center.
Mr. Berger, on that in the Bury the Hatchet, there's no alcohol permitted on that site?
I believe that's correct.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna ask Ms. Kilduff something, because I know she's tried one of these out, and they allow alcohol, and I don't know whether that's in East Brunswick or not. I mean, in Old Bridge, right?
No, it's not. It's
Okay.
Stuckey's in, down,
Cheerio.
Yeah. And I was there, we were there for 2 hours, it was a group of us, it was run very well. You wouldn't, I know you're all like, axe throwing, but really, it is very safe,
Okay.
honestly.
And you said that there was alcohol?
There was alcohol, we bought
But there was
alcohol.
it wasn't out of hand or?
No, we had a bachelor party right next to us, there was 20 guys, and it was
well-behaved?
well-behaved.
I'm only saying that because I don't know if you want to limit yourself on the application to, I don't know what the board is in favor of. I mean, I would say, personally, I would think you would probably want to allow people to bring it in, but obviously you can't sell it, you know that. And,
Sure, if the board is agreeable.
well, I don't know what the board is. I'm just saying, I know that Ms. Gilduff had visited one and participated in the program. That's why when I stepped away from the chair here, I was asking her about that. And there was alcohol allowed to be prepared in there.
Only because you're only there,
I don't-
say 2 hours, right?
Correct.
My recollection was,
You're
what
only
did we
there
do
for-
on Bury the Hatchet?
You know, Kim, is there any way we can get the resolution on Bury the Hatchet? Do you have that on the,
And here on this one.
all right.
Do you remember, Mr. Berger? I didn't think we prohibited it, did we?
I don't think so.
Unless
No,
we-
I think it was
Because
just
I think we had
that they
to
couldn't
see
get a
that.
license. They couldn't get a
One of us
license.
has to talk at a time.
But
so-
Right.
I'm not sure if they were able to bring it in, like, not while they're throwing, but after, when they're sitting back. I can go upstairs real fast if you like, and get,
All right, well, we're going to have to go off the record for a few minutes. We'll stand in recess.
one second. Wait. Okay.
All right, back on the record. This is item number 13-19Z. We'll continue on. We took a break in order to find an old, I guess, resolution from a previous application of the same nature for those of you watching at home. We have that. Mr. Sachs is going to be reviewing it, and we're going to turn it back over to Mr. Berger to continue on his application.
Okay, I'm now going to call a professional planner. So you're all set.
Thank you guys for your time.
No, hold on a second. I have to find out if we got any questions.
I have one last question for you. So I remember at the beginning of your testimony, you said that you checked with Bury the Hatchet, and you made sure that the 2 owners are okay with running the operation so close, right? Did you guys do any market analysis to see if there is a demand for a similar facility so close to each other?
So, in answer to that, we tend to go for a little bit different clientele. I tried to mention corporate entities, as that's something we're really trying to treat.
Okay.
We tend to, especially lately, we've tried to kind of spruce up our facilities. We make them look very nice as much as we can for an axe throwing facility. so we can kind of entreat that crowd. And at the same time, I also just want to mention, this is, by the end of the year, we should have 40 locations up and running, and we don't really take it lightly. Like, we want to be successful. We want to move into areas where we can be successful, and Bury the Hatchet can also be successful,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
of course.
While you're there, hold on. Ben, you had a question?
No, I didn't have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Coffin, please raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, spelling your last name, professional affiliation for the record.
Allison Coffin, Coffin. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey and certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners. I'm employed by James W. Higgins Associates out of Ocean Township.
Berger, Ms. Coffin is well known to this panel. She's testified here many times, and I'm sure she's not a stranger to anyone. We accept her credentials.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman,
Thank
she's
you.
actually she's testified on behalf of similar uses.
Yes.
But she testified on Bury the Hatchet.
Okay.
So she's an axe-throwing planner.
Yes.
She's an experienced planner.
So would you share your expertise with the board?
My expertise?
Yes.
I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey.
No.
I'm-
Your testimony.
My testimony, okay.
Yes.
The site that we're looking at is a 4.89 acre lot. It's got frontage on Route 34 and Morristown Road. The property is fully developed with a commercial shopping center, Park Plaza, which has some vacancies at the moment. And the applicant is proposing to occupy 6,300 square feet of tenant space in this shopping center with a commercial recreational hatchet throwing use. The site is located in the EDO 1 zone. The purpose of the zone is to permit small-scale mix of office, retail, and light industrial uses to allow Old Bridge Township to attain the goals of accommodating market forces, increasing the local rateable base, expanding the local and regional jobs base, providing a more diverse mix of goods and services to residents and businesses within the municipality and the region, achieving an improved balance of residential and non-residential development within the municipality, and utilizing suitable land for development in a more efficient, functional, and aesthetic manner, while controlling and managing highway access and traffic congestion, minimizing impacts on adjacent and nearby residential development, and protecting environmentally sensitive areas. That's a very long sentence. There are a variety of permitted uses in the zone. This zone is very varied in what it is attempting to achieve. It's got manufacturing and retail, information services uses, finance and insurance, real estate, professional scientific and technical services, management companies, administrative support and management, healthcare and social assistances, the promoters of performing arts and managers of theater companies and that sort of thing, food services, restaurants and the like, other assorted services, tradesmen and wholesale trades, and educational services, but axe throwing is not permitted in the zone. So we're requesting a D1 use variance. There are 3 existing bulk variances associated with this property that are not being impacted by the applicant, but just to have the complete record, that includes the maximum front yard setback to Route 34, the maximum front yard setback to Morristown Road, and the minimum landscape area ratio, and none of these are being impacted in any way by the change in tenant use. It's my opinion that special reasons exist for the granting of the use variance, and that the site is particularly suited to the use, and there is no significant detriment to the zone plan or the surrounding properties that would result from the granting of the variance. The proposed use is a recreation entertainment business, which is not anticipated in the zoning ordinance. In order to function, this is a use that requires a space that has open space inside with higher ceilings that can accommodate the ranges and the safety fencing, common areas, and waiting spaces. The tenant space that we're looking at tonight provides what this use needs to function. A location that prevents conflict with nearby residential uses, such as the subject site, adequate available parking, which is provided by the subject site. But further, a use of this sort is a good complement to other uses in a retail shopping center, restaurants in particular. The use draws from existing customers in that center, but also provides customers for nearby food service businesses. So it's a very good complementary use to have within a retail shopping center that has, in particular, restaurants. The variance can be granted without detriment. The use requires no alteration to the building and the site plan for this space to be occupied beyond interior modifications to this space that would be typical of any individual tenant. The use is busiest in the evenings, which means that the greatest impact on the parking supply in the shopping center would be later than the heaviest uses of the retail tenants, so the site can easily accommodate the traffic associated with the use. And the use generates no significant noise, light, or pollution. There's no substantial detriment to the intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning ordinance. The purpose of the zone is to provide for a more diverse mix of uses, which makes an appropriate zone in which to locate this sort of unique use. And the application requires no permanent alterations to the site, which would impede a future conforming use from occupying this tenant space.
So if the board has any questions, I have no further questions for the witness.
Mr. Watt?
Can you elaborate on the parking, the existing, what's the parking situation on site?
I believe there are more than 300 parking spaces. I don't know if we have the site plan.
That's the previous
Or
page.
the
of this.
previous. I have it here. I just didn't know if you wanted to.
So there are existing 318 spaces.
With a requirement
and-
of 261.
Right,
So-
but how does this new use impact the parking requirement?
I don't think it changes the parking requirement,
Why?
because it's just coming in to an existing retail center.
But, I mean, I'm not trying to drill you for the parking. I've done my own analysis. In fact, the zoning officer and I have been chatting about it. The existing use, especially those vacant stores, has been a restaurant and retail use, which has a much higher parking requirement. We were trying to look at our parking schedule to see where this type of use can really fit in, because the retail use requirement is 1 for every 200 space. So if you apply that ratio, it turns out to be that this use, specifically this use, would generate 31 parking spaces. You do have that when you compare the 261 to 318 spaces. But at the same time, we were discussing this could be compared more to a bowling alley or an indoor recreation space where the parking ratio is like 4 spaces per bay. And even if you applied that, you would need 40 parking spaces. So they do have ample parking. I just wanted you to testify based on that. But it's just for record, because there wasn't much in the memo. I just wanted to hear it from you, but that's okay.
Anything else, Mr. Watt?
That's it.
Mr. Gill, you're not in on this, right? You have anything?
I am not in on this. I'm here
Thank you.
purely for support.
Board members of this witness.
Okay, a couple questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Scogno.
Thank you. Here is 30 feet by 60, is that correct?
The
Width in the left?
No, it's much larger than that.
Well,
It's,
It's 1 inch per 30 feet, so this is 1 inch this way and 2 inches that way.
that's on a larger plan. On the 11 by 17, it's not accurate.
So what is the width and the length?
It's 90 feet deep.
71. Looks like.
It's 90 by 70.
By 7?
Yeah.
So how many lanes do you plan in 7? Because that's the way you're going to go.
Well, if you go to the next slide, there are 2 rows of 5. If you look at the drawing, I
So
guess
there are
up here.
10.
There are 10.
And so each one is roughly 3 feet?
12 by 12.
There's-
And then the ceiling, you said there's no modifications by throwing, that's drop ceiling in there, isn't it?
Remove the drop ceiling.
You're going to remove the drop ceiling,
Right.
and then the electrical is all up there,
Yes.
and the air conditioning's up there also.
It's actually a unit on the roof. So there will be ductwork, but there's steel trusses, and so there's room in the trusses.
And I believe the restroom is further way back to the corner.
If you look on the drawing where we do new restrooms, yes, current restrooms are in the corner, but the new restrooms would also be in the corner.
So the person would have to go past the throwing, right? You would have to have a lane to get back
Yes, but there's plenty of room on each side to do that. You're not walking down the lanes where people are throwing.
Yeah. And then the tables and chairs, you're going to have a place towards the front, correct?
That's going to be more towards the right side, is I think there's like a cafe area.
Anybody else on my left? On my right? Mr. Sachs?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a couple things. I've had an opportunity to review the resolution on Bury the Hatchet, which was application 48-17Z. And let me just add some comments from that resolution on the record, which I assume the applicant would be amenable to. And some of this actually is similar testimony. The principal of Bury the Hatchet stated that each session is generally 2 hours, which I think is the same testimony that we heard here this evening, and supervised by a trained professional axe master who is in attendance at each separate axe throwing lane. And I assume that will be the same scenario here.
Yes.
Okay. According to that applicant, there are 10 proposed lanes. Each lane can accommodate 10 participants. I'm assuming the same occupancy limitations?
Said 20?
I think you said 20. Up to.
Up to 20? All right, that's all right. This approval was no food is prepared on site, however, food can be brought in. That's similar to what you're proposing here. And also that if the Township of Old Bridge permits, the applicant, in that case, Bury the Hatchet, would apply for a BYOB license. If obtained, individuals under the age of 21 would not be permitted to participate at a BYOB event on a specific lane. I'm assuming this applicant would agree to that same condition.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of employees, there will be a minimum of 10 professional axe masters. I think you said you had 12 employees? All right, so as long as there's an axe master in each lane, then you're covered, all right? I'm assuming your peak hours of operation are after 5 PM and on the weekends, just like which occurs at Bury the Hatchet. There's a comment in here about the facility being soundproofed. Mr. Berger, is there going to be any soundproofing here, or is it necessary?
Well, we did, the issue there was we had the lanes on the outer walls.
Okay.
And that caused a problem with the next door neighbors, so we had to do soundproofing.
All right, so
Here,
here
we learned something.
The lanes are interior.
The lanes
Okay.
are interior, so you're not going to
Not
need
necessary.
soundproofing.
All right. And lastly, I think this is a good comment. In that approval, all participants were required to sign a general liability waiver, and I would assume you'd want the same thing at Bad Axe.
And that was part of the testimony earlier.
Okay, fine, okay. So that's it, Mr. Chairman. There's really nothing else that was in that resolution. So alcohol would be permitted, provided they obtain a BYOB license.
I don't know that anything exists such as that.
Well-
I could ask Mr. Mamakis, I think he might weigh in tonight on the
Yep.
matter anyway, but I don't know that anything exists as such.
It may be a,
I remember us saying that,
Yeah.
but I have no familiarity with any BYOB
Yeah.
license. I think restaurants per se, I think are inherently allowed to bring in
Yes.
a bottle of wine or a six-pack of beer or something, but again, there may be an ordinance that I'm not aware
maybe,
of.
yeah, maybe when Mr. Mackes gets up,
Yeah.
he can, all right. But that's essentially it, so.
Thank you.
All right, yep.
And potentially you could do is say, if required, if a license is required, then they would obtain a BYOB.
But the same restrictions would apply, no minors.
As
Yeah.
read, you
Right.
obviously would be in favor of the same type of resolution.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up.
Mr. Mamakis, you want to put yourself on the record, please?
Steve Mamakis, Executive Officer, Economic Development. This is a perfect example of more investment in our town. It ties into our strategic plan of entertainment, part of our strategic plan, and it makes Old Bridge a destination location, which we've seen before with Bury the Hatchet. So it's a great addition, a benefit to the town, brings people to our town, so that's one of the reasons why.
Mr. Max, would you have any opposition if they do these BYO kind of situations?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Ties into most of the restaurants and small pizzerias.
And I think it makes a level playing field for everyone, too. No pun intended, but, Anything else you'd like to tell the board?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much, sir. We will note that board members, Susan Colon from the chairwoman of the Environmental Commission, has a memo that the commission has no comments at this time. Mr. Garrity, Mr. Reardon finds the plan satisfactory. I'm assuming you have these, Mr. Berger, correct?
Yes.
And then finally, Mr. Garrity finds the conceptual plan satisfactory in all of the check marks. Mr. Sachs, anything else from you?
No, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Sawant, you were here for the other one too, right? You weren't here yet for the 17? Okay. As far as advice to the board, do you have any other than what we've heard? I mean, we did have one brought before us before.
I actually went through the resolution.
Okay.
The resolution and the review before I reviewed this one, so I think it was right before I joined in.
Okay, all right. So you don't find anything at this
No.
point that alarms you?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
For any of the witnesses or any questions whatsoever from the board members, I'm going to go to my left.
I
And,
have one question.
go ahead, Ms. Kildare.
Axes, are they different weights, different ounces, or is it just one axe? Because I know,
At our particular facility,
yeah.
we rotate through. We're always trying to advance the sport by coming up with new variations on the axe. But based on the league that we help run, we have specific requirements that the axe has to be.
Okay.
So it has to weigh a certain amount, but
Right.
it can only be 4 1/4 long. The material to handle has to be a certain.
And they're only yours, people can't bring their own, right?
That's correct.
That's it.
Anything else, Mr. Connor? No. Okay. On my right, board members? No. None? And Mr. Sachs, you have nothing?
No, nothing, and in terms of the relief that's being sought, it's for a use variance, D1 use
Right.
variance. There's some C variances, which I believe are
There's three,
pre-existing nonconformities.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go to the public on this matter, Mr. Berger, okay?
Yes.
13-19Z. This is Palms Plaza, 343 Route 34, for a indoor recreation of hatchet throwing. Anybody want to be heard in this matter? No one has raised their hand or come forward. I'll close the public portion. Any final comments, sir, before I go for a vote?
No?
Board members, you've heard the application. We would have to vote for a D1 for usage because recreation was not thought about in the, well, not thought about, it's not written in the EDO 1 zone. So if someone would be in favor of moving it, I would entertain that motion.
Motion.
That's Ms. Geldof, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Chevalier. Roll call, please, for D1.
Ms. Chevalier? Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman?
Yes.
Mrs. Feltner?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. And then for the bulk variances, I think there's 3, right?
Yep.
They're
Yes, sir.
pre-existing. Someone want to move them?
Move it.
I'll second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman?
Yes.
Mr. Feltner? Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
You know, when this stuff first started coming around, I thought this kind of was crazy that people were going to throw axes, but from everything I've heard and everything I've seen, and I've witnessed some things on YouTube, that it's really taken off. I think that this community is ripe for new situations of recreation. I think it's ripe for new business models and business ideas. I'm a big believer in business, and I want to see more come into the town. Obviously, my vote is yes.
Thank you very much. And so the resolution will be next month?
Next meeting, yep.
Next meeting, which is when?
September, what, Tim?
September 5th.
September 5th.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for flying in. Your arms tired, or? It's an old joke. You're too young. Well, I'm too old, okay. At least you didn't say that. The lawyer said it, of course. But he gets paid by the word. That's, yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks. That's all we have on the agenda for the evening. Mr. Sachs, you have anything to tell us?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Silverman,
Nothing, guys.
all's good. Next meeting is?
September 5th.
September 5th?
Okay, what's on?
We have
Whole bunch?
fountains.
Okay.
We have 98
And Street.
Street.
Okay.
Okay.
And they'll get all that.
All right. Hopefully be a post-Labor Day
Right.
celebration there. All right, anybody else, board members, want to say anything before? None? Well, I wish everybody the final happy holiday. We will reconvene after, right?
After Labor Day.
After Labor Day, so everybody have a safe Labor Day. I guess the kids will be back to school by then.
And don't worry about it, I will email you all.
Very good. I wish everybody safe the rest of the summer. Someone want to move for adjournment?
Motion.
All in favor? We stand adjourned.